about refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best on the banks of those late fall, late cartwheel sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes us sad. And that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Thursday to everybody. I'm so glad everybody could join me on this Thursday. We have the start of the football week. Yeah, actual real football tonight. Now, there's a couple of college games that nobody cares about. Houston and somebody and somebody and somebody. I don't know who it is. And, of course, an NFL game tonight, the Colts and the Patriots. I'll certainly be watching that. Several things to talk about. A couple of big rivalry games this weekend in conference. Obviously, Florida State and Miami. And that game's in Miami. And, of course, LSU and Florida. That's a big game for both programs. It's a big game for Florida in the East. It's a big game for LSU, period, nationally. And I'm certainly excited to see that. And obviously the Red River shootout, Red River rivalry, Red River, what do they call it now? I don't know. They call it something different every year that's not offensive because people get butthurt. Apparently shootout is a bad thing now because people are scared of guns. I don't know. Anyways, also, very, very briefly, I will talk about CJ Fuller. But before I do any of that, let me get in the comment section here and see who's in here. Miranda Dansby, good afternoon. My favorite damsel in distress. Tiger Nation, what's up? Good afternoon, sir. Clemson Carson says, yo, Nick bro, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm glad you could join us. Prince 6'1" says, well, I'm not going to say what he says. You can read it for yourself. What's up, Prince? Yeah, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on this because I realize, first of all, it's depressing, but it is what it is. Everyone knows that C.J. Fuller passed away yesterday. A lot of people outside of Clemson don't really know who C.J. Fuller was because he wasn't really a national superstar. Anybody who's a Clemson fan knows who he was because he was a great player for Clemson. He wasn't really recruited highly as a running back coming out of high school in the state of South Carolina because of his size. He was like 5'10", 5'11", 200 pounds. He was recruited by a lot of schools as a defensive back and at other positions, and the Clemson coaching staff was actually kind of chastised for offering him as a running back. He turned out to be a really good one. Now, he was overshadowed a little bit because he was the backup to Wayne Gallman. Of course, Fuller and Gallman were on that great historic Clemson team that won the national title with Deshaun Watson and all the other guys that everybody knows about. But he made some big-time key plays in big games. I mean, let's be real here. Some of those games he made key plays in that we may not have actually won the game without him. A lot of speculation going on around his death because he had some legal troubles, which I'm not going to get into. Had absolutely nothing to do with it. From what I understand, from what I read, is that he had a surgery on his leg or his knee recently and had a seizure due to complications of the surgery and passed away. So anyways, needless to say, very sad thing. And so rest in peace, C.J. Fuller. All Tiger fans will miss you, sir. I remember watching C.J. Fuller almost break a kick six for the national championship game. Yes, I remember that too. He also made a couple of great catches. He made a hell of a touchdown catch against Ohio State, and I call him the Coot Killer because every year against South Carolina Gamecocks, he came up big. And I had some South Carolina fans coming on my video from last night that I posted, talking crap about C.J. Fuller. I mean, talk about the ultimate disrespect. I mean, listen. I'm the one that put the title Kook Killer in there, okay? Not C.J. Fuller. And for somebody to come on there and say some of the things they said after his passing shows you how low class and ignorant they are. But anyway, you're going to get that on the internet. I get that. So anyway, let's talk about some of these games this weekend. Well, actually, first, let's talk about this game tonight. I always like to talk a little bit about the NFL game before I get into the college stuff, because the college talk is going to dominate the stream. So I go ahead and get the NFL stuff out of the way. The Colts are terrible. The Patriots, everyone's written off because they what are they, 2-2, 3-2, something like that. Believe me, I'd be shocked if the Patriots didn't absolutely blow the Colts out, or at least beat them pretty handily tonight. What I'm most interested in seeing, though, is will we see a Josh Gordon sighting tonight? Obviously, he was traded to the Patriots a few weeks ago after not showing up or showing up with a hamstring injury. You all know the story with Josh Gordon. He's got a long history of issues off the field in the NFL. Anyway, the Patriots pick him up for a fifth-round pick, which is a steal. Even if he turns out to be a bust, I mean, all they do is lose out a fifth-round pick. The Patriots need receivers as bad as anybody in the league does. And I think we might see him tonight. I haven't heard anything. Does anybody know? Anybody on here who follows the Patriots or is familiar with the situation? Is Josh Gordon supposed to play tonight, even if it's limited? Because that's what I want to see. The guy's one of the most exciting football players in the NFL. If he could stay on the field, he would be a superstar. Nick Rowe says the Pats killed my Dolphins. Yes, sir. Nick Bro, I don't know if I've told you this before. My sister is a huge Dolphins fan. And so as a result, I sort of pull for the Dolphins, as long as they're not playing anybody like the Texans or the Panthers. And so anyway, and I also don't like the Patriots too much for the same reason that most people don't like them. Michael Moultrie, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you'd not be here. He says Patriots 45, Colts 17. Nick Bro says, Josh Gordon played last week, did he? Well, it shows you how much I didn't know. I mean, he must not have played much because I didn't hear anything about how great he played. So he'll play tonight then for sure. I think so. Clemson Carson, I know you're a Patriots fan. How that happened? I mean, did somebody drop you on your head, sir? You're a Clemson fan, so obviously you're a genius. Is there a reason you picked the Patriots to root for? Anyways, about the game tonight, Andrew Luck. Is this the most unlucky football player in recent history? I mean, the guy's a great talent. I don't care who you are. Have you ever heard anybody say, I hate Andrew Luck? No, I mean, the guy's like got the personality of a 12-year-old. I mean, he's just like so ho-hum. And, I mean, it's hard not to like the guy, right? And he's a great talent. But this guy inherited, got drafted onto a team that's absolutely awful. I mean, the owner might be the worst owner outside of the Browns in the past decade, Jim Irsay. I mean, the guy gets pulled over a few years ago in the car drunk and has all kinds of pills and cocaine on him. They go through coaches like babies go through diapers. They can't get this guy an offensive line to save their life. They finally have a decent defense this year. Finally, they have a decent defense and have a couple of good receivers for Andrew Luck to throw the ball to. The receivers get hurt. They're injured. I mean, talk about bad luck. I mean, the guy who gets a shoulder surgery, has him out of it for a year and a half or 2 years. They misdiagnosed it. I mean, how does that happen in today's age? I mean, just bad luck after bad luck after bad luck for that guy. I feel sorry for the guy. But it is what it is, and as a result, the fact that their key players on offense are hurt, and the fact that Tom Brady, I think, is 5-0 against Andrew Luck, I just don't see it being close. Hey, what's up, Mark Dudley? Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. So, as far as college football goes, this is the best start of this week. Is usually the best start of the year. And when I say that, what I mean is, yes, throughout the first few, 4 or 5 weeks, you have some really good matchups. But at this time of the year, what you start to see is pretty much all of the non-conference cupcake games for the big name programs are out of the way, at least till the very end of the season. What we start to see now is everybody's getting into conference play, and that's when the meat of the season starts, right? And we've got some good ones this week. And that reminds me. I wanted to touch on Nick Saban's comments. I was actually listening to Paul Feinbaum before I came on here, and I rarely agree with Paul Feinbaum, but he made a lot of good points on there about a lot of the reasons why some of these people and students don't show up to these games. Well, first of all, there's lots of different angles to come at here, but if you're an Alabama fan, especially an Alabama student, okay. So we're going into week 6 now. So there's been 2 or 3 home games at Alabama. The only one that really mattered and people did show up for was against Texas A&M, right? Other than that, they played Nobody State and Louisiana Lafayette at home. The other part of this thing is, if you're an Alabama student, right? The average age for a college student at Alabama or any university for that matter is between the ages of 18 and 22, right? So every single student at Alabama right now doesn't know anything other than Alabama being dominant, right? So they don't remember when Alabama was bad prior to 2008. So in 2008, the 18-year-old kid was 8 years old, right? So he doesn't remember. I mean, they're spoiled. It's sort of like a rich kid who grows up with a silver spoon in his mouth who doesn't appreciate what he has. Well, that's what the Alabama student body is going through right now with Alabama. Listen, they an 11 o'clock game against Louisiana Lafayette, where they're going to beat them by 90 points. These kids don't wake up till 11 a.m. They're still hungover and drunk from the night before. They'd rather wake up at 11 if they're playing Louisiana Lafayette, take a couple bong rips in their apartment, and watch it on TV, and then start a whole other round of beer pong in their air-conditioned apartment. Who wants to go sit in 95-degree heat with a hangover if you're 18 years old and watch Alabama beat up on Louisiana Lafayette and then win by 90 points? So not surprising to me in the least. The other thing about it is, this doesn't have so much to do with the students, but just in general. The cost of going to a college football game and an NFL game at this point is so ridiculous. I mean, it's not just even if you get a free ticket, right? I mean, that's great. But if you're a student, you get a free ticket or whatever. You get one for very cheap. I don't know how that works. It's different everywhere. But if you're not a student, you got to buy the ticket, right? You've got to drive there most likely if you don't live, within 15 or 20 minutes from the campus. You got to pay anywhere between $20 and $80 for parking, depending on how close you want to park and where you're parking at. You've got to spend money on whatever food and tailgating. You've got to walk, unless you get a parking spot right by the stadium, you got to walk a half a mile or more, stand in line, go inside the stadium, pay $10 for a hot dog and $5 for a soda, just to sit in the bleachers and bake in the sun. And like I said, to watch your team beat up on an inferior team. I mean, they're pricing the normal fan out of the situation. Somebody like myself, I'm going with Prince 6'1" to the North Carolina State game. And that's great. I'm not paying for it. I mean, that kudos to him. if he wasn't giving me a free ticket, I mean, I would pay for it, but if he wasn't giving me a free ticket, in other words, if I was planning on going to this game by myself with my wife, I probably wouldn't be going, because we have to drive up there, get a hotel room, buy the tickets, and then and pay for parking and all the other stuff I just mentioned. But before you know it, it's an $800 weekend to go watch us play NC State. And I mean, we're not poor or anything, but it's still, it's all for the rich people now. It's getting out of hand, and the reason it's so expensive is to pay for these inflated coaching salaries, right? I mean, I'm not upset that Dabo Swinney's making $7 million a year. We'll pay him whatever he wants to win, but that's a big reason why the tickets cost so much. Pigskin Long Hair Pete says, "Good afternoon, Dennis Wilson. How you doing, sir? Let me go back and see what you guys are talking about in here." Hot Cosby, he says his pillow is harder than Alabama's schedule. That's a soft pillow. Well, yeah, where is College Football Maniac? She says he's kind of drunk right now. I mean, it's early for that, isn't it? Tiger Nation says, "What's up, Pete? It cost $1,000 just for 3 tickets for me and my brothers." Yeah, so I think I've told this story before, but on my birthday 3 years ago, when I went to, my wife was nice enough to buy us tickets to the Notre Dame game. It was on October 3rd, 2015. Famous game. Everybody remembers it. It was during the hurricane, the flood, whatever you want to call it. So we paid $350 per ticket for the two of us. So that's $700. We paid another $300 and something for our hotel room, which was on campus. So what? Now we're over $1,000 just for the tickets in the room. That didn't even cover the cost of everything else we did when we were there. You know, drinking, eating, hanging out, buying memorabilia. But by the time it was all said, done, gas, it was about a $1,500 day for us to go watch that game. Now, it was worth every penny. I mean, it was a great game, and I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. But it's still, $1,500 for 2 people to go watch one college football game is ridiculous. Bobby Durkin's here. May there. How you doing, sir? How you doing, Bobby? Anybody who doesn't know Bobby, I'm sure if you're here, you already do. Clemson YouTuber, great guy, and great video maker. How you doing, Bobby? Thank you for stopping in, sir. It reminds me, anybody who is going to be in the Clemson area, including Bobby, I know, Bobby, you live close to there, don't you? I know there's several of you that live close to there. Some of you guys are even students there. We'll be there October 20th, NC State game, just in a couple of weeks. Hit me up on YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter. Let me know. We'd love to see you. Christopher Goodrich, good afternoon, sir. Andrew Odom, good afternoon. How you doing? He says, "Hey guys, how's it going? Been a while since I've seen your live stream." Why? It's not hard, sir. Even if you don't catch it live, it uploads to YouTube, and it's just a click away. And while you're there, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and tell your friends about it and share it too. Bobby Durkin says he'll come see us and he'll buy me a second-rate steak. Hey, I'll take it, sir. All right, so let's talk about these some of these rivalry games. First and foremost, we'll talk about the ACC one, Florida State and Miami. Does anybody give Florida State a shot, a chance in hell in this? Now, I was listening to the radio today, and I heard something that I didn't know. And it makes a lot of sense to me now. So, when Willie Taggart was at Oregon and he accepted that job at Florida State, it was contingent on the fact that he would also bring Mario Cristobal with him, the offensive coordinator. Mario Cristobal, for anybody who doesn't know, played at Miami. And he also wanted to bring, I believe, the defensive coordinator with him. Anyway, so Mario Cristobal and the defensive coordinator, I don't know if they told him they were coming and then changed their mind or what happened there, but they basically, after he accepted the job, said, "No, we're staying." And then they got promoted Obviously, Mario Cristobal got promoted to the head coach of Oregon, and they gave the other guy a big raise to stay in Oregon. So he thought he had two of his guys coming with him, and neither one of them came. So he ended up coming by himself, and that ended up being a very bad thing for Florida State, because Willie Taggart basically was getting a lot of credit for what they were doing, and he's not the same coach without his great coordinators. So Mario Cristobal may have been the really the guy that maybe Florida State should have went after if they were going to go after somebody. They kind of picked the wrong guy, and we all see what's happening. Now, I'm not saying that Willie Taggart's a bad coach. I'm not saying that Willie Taggart won't be successful there at some point, but listen, he got handed the keys to a Ferrari, okay? He walked into a situation that most first-time or most coaches that are taking over a major program like that do not walk into. Look at Scott Frost, for example. He went over and took over a big name, big brand program in Nebraska, but he got left with nothing to work with. Willie Taggart walked into maybe a top 5 roster in all of America, and what are they doing with it? Nothing. I mean, it's just they're almost unwatchable. So anyway, on the flip side of that, Miami came into the season. Everyone thought they were going to be easily the second best team in the ACC. Go out week 1 with a average quarterback play, maybe below average quarterback play. Get handled pretty well on national television by LSU. Everybody writes them off. Well, since then, they've made a quarterback change and they look like a completely different team. Their defense is playing lights out. We all knew they had a good defense, and they're actually looking better than I even thought they were going to look, considering some of the pieces that they lost. So all that being said, this game is in Miami. The line on it, I think, is 12.5. I don't see any way that Florida State competes in this game. Do you? Does anybody else think that Miami or Florida State even has a shot in this game? Miami will destroy the crab leg thieves, says Hot Cosby. Clemson Carson says Florida State loses 35-10. I think it might be worse than that. Bobby Durkin says it would make sense. Mario knew the system. Yes, exactly. And he may have actually been the real offensive mastermind there at Oregon, and not Willie Taggart. You know how I know that? Because look at how Oregon's doing this year without Willie Taggart. Look how Florida State's doing with Willie Taggart. Now, basic math there. Dennis Wilson says Mario Cristobal did not want to run with the no backpack crew. Richard Neal, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Ryan Reedley, good afternoon. DW. Only if Miami melts down, he says. Yeah, I don't see that happening. And Taggart's defense, Jimbo couldn't win with him either. Well, Jimbo still won 7 games last year, sir. Florida State does not look like they're going to win 7 games. I mean, Jimbo's team last year, as bad as they were, looked better than what Florida State looks like right now, I think. Tiger Nation, Travis Etienne is going to get 200. You guys are already talking about that. The other game that's really interesting talking about, because I was about to say, Miami, you still got to deal with Virginia Tech. Don't write Virginia Tech off just because they lost to Old Dominion. I know. It's terrible. The worst loss in a long time by any school, by any major program. But the last thing Miami wants to do is start thinking that Virginia Tech is crap, and then go up there to Blacksburg and get beat. And if that happens, because listen, the Old Dominion game, while it looks bad, was not an ACC game, so it has no bearing on that division, the ACC Coastal Division. So right now, you still have Virginia Tech and Miami that are both undefeated in the division, and the winner of that game could potentially decide who wins that division. So, Dennis Wilson, you better worry about Virginia Tech before you start worrying about Clemson, sir. See you later, Bobby. Make sure you get a good spread on that shotgun when you're shooting those cats, sir. And yes, I'll be in touch with you. Are you going to go to the game? Miranda asks, is Trevor Lawrence going to be back on Saturday? Yeah, they've already named him the starter. Billy Dawson, good afternoon, sir. Maybe you've been here. I just saw you, though. It's because Florida State players feared the face mask grab under Jimbo. DW says, why do you think Darian Kendrick isn't getting quarterback reps? He was a high school quarterback. Well, so the quarterback depth chart right now goes with Hunter Renfrow being the fourth string. So, I mean, in all likelihood, right? I mean, what's the chances of 3 quarterbacks getting hurt where you have to have Hunter Renfrow be the quarterback? Hunter Renfrow was also a high school quarterback. And my guess is because he's an upperclassman and knows the system better than Darian Kendrick does, would be the reason that he would get the reps over Kendrick. That wouldn't make more sense than anything. But listen, if it comes down to that, forget about it. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Delta Charlie says Duke probably thought that also. You must be talking about Virginia Tech. That's an interesting game this week. Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. Now, anybody? Is there anybody in America that's not picking Notre Dame to win that? I mean, all I'm hearing is that Notre Dame is one of the best teams in the country, and maybe they are. I don't know, but let's be real. Who have Notre Dame played? Don't tell me Michigan. Okay, I mean, I watched Michigan last week have to come back from 17 points at Northwestern. Northwestern's what, 1-3? Northwestern got curb stomped by Duke. Northwestern's not a very good team, folks. I'm sorry to tell you. And Michigan is, like always, probably the most overrated team in the country this year. So my point is that's Notre Dame's best win. Now, Notre Dame has had some convincing wins over other teams and beat up on people that they should beat up on. So I'll give them credit for that. But this will be the best team outside of Michigan. Yes, Virginia Tech will be the best team that they've played this year, and it's in Virginia Tech. So if I'm Notre Dame, I'm on upset alert, and that could shake up the whole landscape of college football if Virginia Tech pulls off the upset this weekend. Andrew Odom says, what time is Clemson on? They're on at 3:30 on Saturday. James Gang Rock and Roll Hughes. That's a long name, sir. But anyway, welcome to the stream. He says, how long has Renfrow been at Clemson? Renfrow is a senior. He was redshirted. He's a walk-on that was redshirted, and he's played 4 full seasons. So I guess he's been there 5 years on the team, but been a non-red, an actual player for 4 years. Hot Cosby says he wants to see Kelly Bryant come to Penn State. Anybody who doesn't know by his profile picture there, Hot Cosby is a Penn State fan. I think that would be a very interesting fit for Kelly. Everybody's speculating on where he's going to go. I mean, there's so many different places that would make sense. I put Penn State and Auburn right up there at the very top of the list for everything he's looking for and everything they're looking for in a quarterback. I would definitely rather see him go to Penn State than go to any ACC school. Just me being selfish. I don't want to play against him. I don't want to root against the guy. And the Big Ten would be interesting for him for sure. Tyler wants him to go to Auburn. He's an Auburn fan. Comic Dude 45, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Hunter Renfrow is one of my top 3 favorite Clemson players of all time, right up there with Sammy Watkins and Deshaun Watson. That's a very common fan favorite for a lot of reasons. Obviously, he's been a baller. He was a walk-on, sort of the underdog guy who everybody in the country knows who he is, no matter which team you're a fan of. So yes, it's hard not to put him right up there with your favorites of all time. He's one of my favorites of all time as well. Christian Ballard says, so did Kelly Bryant transfer because he didn't get the starting job? I'm a bit confused on the situation. Yes, that's what it comes down to. Basically, with the new red shirt rule, he can play 4 games and still redshirt and maintain 1 more year of eligibility left. Being that he's a senior, if he would have taken 1 more snap, if he would have taken 1 snap against Syracuse last week, his college career would have been over after the season. So Dabo Swinney gave him an out. He said, look, we're naming Trevor the starter, and we support whatever you want to do. If you want to transfer, now's the time to do it so you can play next year. If not, we'd love to still have you on the team. I think that the coaching staff thought that Kelly would stay regardless of being demoted to second string, and he chose otherwise. But at the very least, at least Dabo gave him that option. So I think it was good for everybody involved. It was good for recruiting because the players that are coming into Clemson from here on out know for sure now that Coach Swinney is looking out for their best interests instead of his own. And it worked out for Kelly because now he gets to make his own decision on his future and go do what he wants to do. So everyone sort of wanted to jump off a bridge. If you're a Clemson fan, saying, oh, we need Kelly, we need Kelly, we need Kelly this year. Well, that might be true. But at the end of the day, in the long run, I think it worked out for all parties involved. The quarterback scramble shredded Ohio State's defense on Saturday, so I'd like to see us get the true dual threat. I love watching, what's his name play? McSorley. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in college right now. Miranda Davis, NFL isn't my thing, so I kind of don't care where he goes, but I hope he does amazingly in his future. Will Shea says, you not making sense. Enlighten me, sir. I don't know if you're talking to me or not. If so, how am I not making sense? Yes, McSorley is a baller. No, I want to see our offense change, maybe West Coast or maybe an under center type of offense or a Shanahan offense. We got weapons. Jaleel Johnson says. Hold on, let me see this comment I just missed here. Damn it, I lost it. It was one I wanted to respond to. Christian Ballard says, on the bright side, Hurts has played in every game for Bama. Yeah, well, guess what? Hurts is going to transfer after this year. Hurts is going to leave at the end of this year if he's not the starter, which he won't be. And he shouldn't be because Tua is better. And if Hurts was in the situation that Kelly Bryant was in this year, where it was his final year of eligibility and he was not named the starter, he would have left too. So everyone's saying how great of a teammate that Jalen Hurts is because he decided to stay. Well, he's got another year left. Kelly doesn't, and we'll see how you feel next year when he takes a hike. Yeah, my watch. Jaleel Johnson says he hates our offense. I don't necessarily hate the offense. I mean, we've got everything we need. We got everything you need to beat anybody in the country with if we put together a good game. I just don't like I'm very critical of the philosophy of we're just going to do what we do no matter who we're playing and whatever the situation is. I don't like that philosophy. I like the philosophy of changing things up based on the situation of the game and who you're playing. That's just me. And I get a lot of backlash from other Clemson fans that want to just pretend like, you can't criticize anything that Dabo does in some people's eyes. And I get it. But I'm not all sunshine and roses. I'm not all rainbows and unicorns. I have an opinion, and I'm going to voice it. That's the whole reason I have this YouTube channel. Some people can't handle it. Some people don't like it. That's good for them. But it is what it is. Will Shea says, everything you said about Hurts is a lie. What part of it was a lie? The part where I said he's going to transfer at the end of this year? We'll see how much I'm lying when the season's over. Ross and Higgins could be the best wide receiver duo in all of college football if the play calling is right. Yeah, I mean, you also got to understand that Trevor, Ross, I mean, these are young, these are true freshmen, and these they haven't played enough real football together, you know, in live games to really develop that chemistry. Every game that goes on, you'll see, I think, a better passing attack once these receivers and obviously Trevor get on the same page and just have more experience together. I'm not worried about that at all. Do you think this year's SEC championship will come down to Alabama and LSU for the West? That's a good question. LSU is killing it right now, beating Auburn a couple weeks ago. Do you think they have a shot at Bama? That's a great question, Christian Ballard. Yeah, yes, I do. Based on what I've seen so far, I do think that the West will probably more than likely come down to LSU and Alabama. Obviously, you can't throw Auburn out of that conversation. There's nobody else in that division. I mean, that's the three teams right there, right? I mean, you got Auburn, Alabama, LSU. Obviously, LSU has the head-to-head over Auburn already, so they're already one step ahead. And do I think that LSU can beat Alabama? I think they can, yeah. I'm not one of these people that gets all way overhyped about Alabama. I realize Alabama's really good. I admit they look like the best team in the country. But, yes, they can be beat. They can be beat by just about anybody in the SEC on a bad day. Not everybody in the SEC. I'm not going to go crazy here. They're not beating. Missouri's not beating them. South Carolina's not beating them. Tennessee, I mean, probably not Florida. Arkansas. Okay, just calm down, everybody. But yes, LSU plays big boy football. Okay, Georgia plays big boy football. Auburn plays big boy football. They are beatable. Now, having said all that, I still think that it's probably about a 90% chance that Alabama wins the SEC this year. Provided there's no major injury to a major player like Tua or something like that, which nobody wants to see, including myself. Clemson Carson, I agree, sir. James Gang, that's what I'm going to call you, sir, because your name is way too long to say. Pete, if Hurts wanted to, he could come back to Bama for another year. Yeah, listen, they want him to come back. Why wouldn't they want him to? Sure he could. They're not kicking him off the team. I'm saying he's leaving on his own after this year. The only way Auburn can make the SEC West is if they can upset Georgia on the road and have one loss to LSU. Well, more than likely, but how do you know? I mean, and they'd have to beat Alabama too. That's the other thing you left out. Matt Rhodes, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. He says, go Tigers, and that's in the Ed Orgeron voice, not the Dabo's winning voice. And he says, you are the man, Pete. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Your team cannot beat Alabama, period. Are you talking to me, sir? I mean, I don't know if somehow you have a crystal ball. Is my team going to beat Alabama this weekend? No, but guess what? We're not playing them. Can my team beat Alabama in January? Sure they could. How do you know? Yeah, a lot of people said that Clemson couldn't beat Alabama in the national championship game, and guess what? We did. Dennis Wilson says N'Kosi Perry is the best quarterback in the ACC. That's an awful bold statement after watching him play a game and a half, sir. But you're entitled to your opinion. Will Jones says he's headed to the Wake game tomorrow. I'm glad. I'm glad to see that you'll be able to watch that drubbing we're going to give them tomorrow. Christian Ballard says, you guys got lucky. Oh, yeah, we got lucky. Believe me, sir. Clemson fans have been listening to that for the past decade. We've been lucky for the past 8 years to be the second winningest team in America behind Alabama. We've been lucky for the past 8 years to have more wins against top 10 teams than anybody in America other than Alabama. We've been lucky to make the playoffs 3 years in a row and beat the crap out of everybody we played other than Alabama. And, of course, we were lucky to beat Alabama. Luck does not happen for that long, sir. Sorry, it just doesn't. That'd be like me saying that Alabama's lucky to win the national title 8 out of the last 11 years or whatever it is. It's an asinine statement. Tiger Nation says, we got lucky. I guess we got lucky when we shut out Ohio State, beat Oklahoma twice in a row, beat Auburn twice in a row. Yeah, we got lucky to do all that. Believe me, it wasn't luck that we had the best player in college football those 2 years. And it certainly wasn't luck after he went into the NFL that we continued to win at a high level, like everyone said that we wouldn't. Christian Ballard says, I feel like the playoff is rigged to let the road team in the white jersey win. No home team win since the last first one in Ohio State. I'm not going to even entertain that, sir. I hope you're kidding. I hope you're kidding that the refs would determine who wins the playoffs by the colored jersey they wear. Dennis Wilson says, yes, Clemson did get lucky in the Natty game. Coming from a Miami fan, yep. Well, one thing that is for sure, Miami hasn't been lucky since they joined the ACC because they haven't won it yet. So they have definitely not been lucky. T. Lucci, good afternoon, sir. I don't know if I've seen you in here before. He said, I still think Syracuse has a chance of winning the ACC. That's a hot take. Clemson might drop one that they shouldn't. Well, even if Clemson drops one that they shouldn't, we'd still have the head-to-head win against Syracuse. So Clemson would have to lose 2 for Syracuse to win the ACC to even win the division. And Syracuse would have to win out, and Clemson would have to drop 2 ACC games. Otherwise, that's not happening. And believe me, those 2 things are not happening. I will be very interested to see. So Notre Dame obviously has to go to Virginia Tech this weekend. If they get out of there with a win the rest of their games, towards the end of the season, they got to go to New York to play Syracuse. It's a home game for Notre Dame somehow. Figure that one out. On the schedule, it's a home game for Notre Dame, but it's in Yankee Stadium, which last time I checked was in the state of New York, the same state that Syracuse is in. Anyway, that'll be an interesting game to watch because I think that Syracuse – I'm not going to go out there and say that Syracuse is a great team and they're going to beat up on everybody they play, okay? But I think that they're a lot better than people think they are, and there's a very good chance that Syracuse could upset Notre Dame at the end of this year, as long as their quarterback's still healthy. That's the main thing. How much longer do I think that Nick Saban will stay at Alabama before he retires? He just signed an extension through, what was it, 2024 or 2025? I think that that's it for him. At that point, he'll be like 70 years old. And as long as he wins another national title or two and passes Bear Bryant, it'll be time for him to hang it up, I think. Clemson cornerbacks aren't ready for Miami's wide receiver. That boy Mike and Jeff. Okay. James Gang says, if you think Clemson ain't real, you're either stupid or jealous. Sounds like both. Yes. I won't even continue to read the rest of that, but he's saying it as good as you can say it. You don't see Nick leaving. Why? I mean, okay, so when do you think Nick's going to leave? When he's 80? 90? 100? I mean, what's the ceiling there for him? What's up, Wrong on Purpose? Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. The artist formerly known as Drake Luke is in the house. Last year was an 8-year contract through the end of the 2024 season. Yeah, 2024. Then that's the answer to the question. You ask me when I think Nick is leaving after his contract is up after 2024. He'll be done once he starts losing. I disagree. I don't think that Saban wants to go out losing. I think he wants to go out on top. So I disagree. What's up, Nadu? Is that how you say your name? Miami needs to score a touchdown before talking smack to Clemson. Yes, thank you. Exactly. Yes, Bill Snyder is old. And how's that working out for him? First of all, he shouldn't even be offered a contract there anymore. He should have been fired, but they won't fire him. Second of all, I mean, that's a perfect example of why Nick Saban will not coach till he's 80. He's looking at Bill Snyder going, man, that just looks pitiful and sad. I don't want to look like that. What's up, T-Mac Rock 1? Good afternoon, sir. This is a very common theme that I hear from everybody, especially Alabama fans. 1 minute they tell me how much Clemson sucks and how much Alabama is so much more dominant and Clemson has no chance to ever compete with Alabama because Nick Saban. Next breath they say, well, as soon as Nick Saban retires, you know Dabo's coming back to Alabama, don't you? Why would you want a coach like Dabo Swinney who is so inferior to Nick Saban? Why would you even want that? I'll tell you the reason why. It's because you don't even believe it. The ones that say it don't believe it. They don't believe that Dabo is inferior. The other thing is, I don't think you're going to see Dabo come to Alabama. I know it's a big thing for Alabama fans to admit that or even think about it, that maybe possibly an Alabama guy like Dabo would rather stay at Clemson, but I'm here to tell you, I think that he would rather stay at Clemson. That's something that he built. That's Dabo's house, and it's not about money with him. And even if it was, Clemson could match any amount of money that Alabama throws at him. And why go try to live up to somebody else's standard at Alabama when he's got his own dynasty going on? Dynasty, and it's in a very loose term there. I'm using it. I'm not saying dynasty like Alabama, but as far as Clemson goes, it's a dynasty. As far as that football program goes, and he is the king. And why would he leave that? Doesn't make much sense. And I don't think he will leave it, but we'll see. We'll find out who's right when that time comes. Billy says he won't leave after another natty. He will shoot for wins, the wins record, but won't reach it. 2024 or close, he'll probably do. If he starts losing, he will leave. Clemson Carson says we need to keep Brent Venables. So if Dabo left, we could have Venables as the head coach. I mean, I don't know. Listen, I love Brent Venables as a defensive coordinator. Doesn't mean he'll be a great head coach, though. So, I mean, that is what it is. I mean, look at the situation at Virginia Tech. So, when Frank Beamer stepped down, I mean, he was there since, 1856? I mean, he was there for 150 years. And Bud Foster's been there for over 30 years as the defensive coordinator under Frank Beamer. Frank Beamer steps down. Guess who doesn't get the job? But that's right, Bud Foster doesn't. And why do you think Bud Foster didn't get the job there? My answer to that would probably be he's not head coach material. He's a great coordinator. And I don't know. I'm not saying that Venables wouldn't be a great head coach. Maybe he would. But at this point, to me, he's a great defensive coordinator, and that's where I'm going to leave it at. Money is power. Like I said before, any amount of money that Alabama can throw at a coach, so can Clemson. So it's not about the money, if that's what it came down to. What's up, Sarge? How you doing, sir? Why would Dabo leave Clemson and their cupcakes to go to Bama? He'd be stupid to do that, he says. SEC dog, sir. I've seen Alabama's schedule, and believe me, it's not that much harder than Clemson's. The only reason it might be a little bit harder this year is because Florida State's crap. Other than that, pretty much the same. 6, 1/2 dozen the other, sir. Yeah, and listen, it's hard to say what's going to happen. I mean, Dabo's not even 50 years old yet, so let's put it this way. I think he'll definitely be at Clemson for the foreseeable future. When I say foreseeable future, I mean at least the next 10 to 15 years. But let's say, I don't know, when he's approaching Nick Saban's age and 60 something, that might be a different story. I mean, that's a long time from now, right? We're talking about 20 years from now. Things can change. A lot can change in 20 years, right? I mean, who knows? He may have won multiple national titles at Clemson, built his legacy, been there forever, and then decides he wants to go back to Alabama for his last 2 or 3 seasons and just finish his career out in Alabama because he's an Alabama guy, just for some sort of personal gratification. Who knows? But anybody who thinks that Nick Saban's going to, as soon as he retires in 2024 or 2025 or whenever it is, that all of a sudden Dabo is going to pack up his bags and run to Alabama, that's not going to happen. Hey, Dennis Wilson, Chase Bryce is 10 times better than who's that guy? Who's the guy? Who's the backup quarterback at Miami now? I already forgot his name. That's how irrelevant he is. Rozier. Our third string freshman quarterback is better than Rozier. I'll chew on that for a second. Pete, who win Cuse or NC State? Is that who plays this? Did they play this weekend? That's a good question. That's an interesting game. Richard Neal says, off topic, Mike Leach needs a bigger job. I don't know if Mike Leach needs a bigger job. He's got to succeed at the one he has before he gets a bigger one, doesn't he? I love that guy, though. man. Unbelievable. I see that the chat has got out of control here. All right, Christian Ballard says top 4 quarterbacks. And I'm assuming by the colon he put after that, he's about to list them. So I'll be waiting on that, unless you want my opinion. Yeah. It's usually the teams who don't have a very good coach who are the ones that are always trashing Dabo, you know. I mean, let's be real here, guys. I mean, Dennis Wilson's in here. I'm not saying that Mark Richt is a bad coach, but you'd trade for Dabo in a heartbeat, sir. Stop lying. Everybody knows you're lying about that. Pretty much every fan base out there would trade Mark Richt for Dabo Swinney. It's not even close. The only one that I guess you could say maybe wouldn't trade for Dabo would be if you're an Alabama fan, your Nick Saban is your coach. Maybe an Ohio State fan would say that they would rather have Urban than Dabo. I don't know. I guess Georgia, it's still too early to say, but at least Kirby is doing something there. And I mean, his resume, he doesn't have near the resume that Dabo does, but maybe they wouldn't want to trade him. Outside of that, I mean, what other coach in America would you not trade for Dabo? Outside of those guys I just named. None of them, trust me. Dwayne Haskins, Tua, Trevor, Justin Fields. That's his top 4 quarterbacks right now. Christian Ballard says that. I mean, unless you could take those, you could probably take those 4 quarterbacks. First of all, I would take Justin Fields out of there and Trevor Lawrence, and I'm a Clemson fan because they haven't played enough to make that determination. Now, potential best 4 quarterbacks, you could put Justin Fields and Trevor in there. Maybe next year they definitely will be in there. As of right now, from what we've seen this year, Dwayne Haskins, yes. Tua, yes. I put Tua number 1 ahead of Haskins, but that's just me. And then, of course, you got to put Drew Lock in that conversation. He just plays on a bad team. Doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. I mean, Trace McSorley, right? Kyler Murray, the way he's playing. Justin Herbert at Oregon. Matter of fact, I'd put Justin Herbert at number 2. I'd put Tua. Let me go back to that. Where's that list at? I'd put Tua number 1, Justin Herbert number 2, Dwayne Haskins number 3, and probably Drew Lock number 4. That'd be my top 4 right now. But that doesn't mean much at this point of the season. T. Lucci says he respects Dabo, built his own brand. He's an LSU fan. Thank you, sir, for that. I'm looking forward to that game, that Florida and LSU game this weekend. I'm also really looking forward to Kentucky and Texas A&M. Were any Kentucky fans in here? I meant to ask this earlier because, man, I haven't seen a Kentucky fan on the internet ever. And they're everywhere now. Where was I last night? I was on somebody's YouTube channel. Mark Rogers TV. Big shout out to Mark Rogers, by the way. And his comment section, his live chat was full of Kentucky fans. They were on there saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Kentucky's going to win the SEC. Kentucky would beat Clemson right now by 40 points. Now, listen, I understand that they should be happy, and God bless them. But talk about getting drunk off a little bit of success. Let's look at who Kentucky's actually beat, okay? I'll give them credit for beating Mississippi State. Right? Is that who they beat? Who was it they beat last week? Well, I know they beat Florida. I know they beat South Carolina. And then what was it? Mississippi State last week, right? But let's be real here. None of those teams are very good. I mean, they're not great. South Carolina is not good at all. All right? Florida is up and down. Mississippi State, maybe a bit overrated. But let's calm down here. They think that they're actually going to win the SEC. Just stop it. I mean, they're drinking the same Kool-Aid that the Gamecock fans have been drinking for the past 50 years. Is that they win a couple of games in a row and they all of a sudden start thinking they're the best team in the country. And then what ends up happening is they lose one game, then they lose another, then they lose another. And before you know it, it's a massive letdown. These guys just need to calm down. Now, if Kentucky goes into Texas A&M this week and beats them convincingly and looks good doing it, or even beats them at all, really, I'll say that, I will jump on the Kentucky hype train. Okay? I mean, I won't still be thinking that they're going to win the SEC or anything, but my confidence in Kentucky will jump up 10 notches if they go on the road at A&M and beat them. As of right now, I'm still a very cautious bystander. Beating the Coots isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, I already knew that. I knew that before the season started. I said before the season started, South Carolina was still a 7 or 8 win team. I said it's more likely that they win less games this year than they did last year because that's what Will Muschamp does. Oh, no. Nope. Everybody, no. Because South Carolina this year, they're on the way up. They won 9 games last year. They're going to win 10 or 11 games this year. No. Wah. We all know that's not going to happen. No, I can't blame Kentucky for being happy. As a matter of fact, if I were a Kentucky fan, I'd be very happy. But how about just be a little bit, like if you're a Kentucky fan, like it's still early in the season. It's a long season. You still have to play some really good teams. Don't get all worked up and hyped up and get your hopes up. Because that way it sets you up for a massive letdown. This is just advice, all right? Consider it free advice from Pigskin Pete. If you don't want it to be free, you can send me some money in the mail, and I'll charge you for it. But otherwise, just take my free advice if you're a Kentucky fan and calm down. Richard Neal, A&M has to play disciplined. Kent likes to shove, talk smack, and get opposing players to commit personal fouls. Yes, I did see that. And that's really so Jimbo Fisher led team is going to be disciplined for the most part. That's really one of his strong suits. A&M is no pushover. Okay, listen, we saw that they played Clemson tough. We saw they played Alabama tougher than anybody else so far this year, and that was on the road in Tuscaloosa. They don't have the talent to match up with an Alabama or Clemson. I mean, Clemson should have beat them by more than they did, but anyway, that's a totally different story. But Kentucky is not on Alabama or Clemson's level. Okay, so A&M has played 2 of the best teams in the country through the first 5 weeks of football, and played them tough. Lost both games, but played both of them respectively. Let's put it that way. And if Kentucky's going to come in there beating their chest thinking that they're on Clemson and Alabama's level, they're going to get humbled really quick. That's the game I'll be looking forward to the most this week. And like I said, if Kentucky wins that game, I will have a totally different outlook on that team. Good point, SEC dog. That's my cue. Mrs. Pete calling. Yeah, so I got to go. Real life stuff to handle here. Anyway, thank you everybody for stopping in. If you're new here, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Even if you're not new here, hit the like button for sure. If you are new here, hit the subscribe button. I upload multiple college football videos every single week. I also do 2 live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. for 1 hour. And I do 1 live play-by-play and reaction video during a football game every Saturday. And this week I will be doing Texas and Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry at 12 p.m. Tell everybody about it. Tell your friends about it. Tell your neighbors about it. Tell your wife about it. Tell her to tell her friends about it. Shout it out from a mountaintop. Tattoo it on your forehead. If you tattoo it on your forehead, make sure you tattoo it backwards so that when you look in the mirror, it reads correctly. I got to go because my wife keeps calling me. Thank you, everybody, for stopping in. And if I don't see you before Saturday, I will see you Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square. And thanks, everybody, for stopping in again. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete. Checking out.